Retro Now.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall, voice of Hera and Rook Cast, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. Their behavior is continually unexpected.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And in this episode, we're going to take a look ahead at all the upcoming Star Wars content for 2025 that we know about so far anyway. But before we get into what's to come, Jay, remind everybody where we can be found on social media.
Sure thing. We can always be found, no matter what year it is, on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right, the distance aligned, the signal's boosted to maximum output, the shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So we hope 2025 has been treating everyone well so far. This is something that we like to do every year. It's a bit of a tradition where we're looking ahead to what we can expect from Star Wars. And we'll break it down by categories: movies, television, books, comics, and the like. So yeah, let's kick it off there. So on the movie front, we have nothing to look forward to that we know of in 2025. However, that doesn't mean that we aren't going to start getting things around movies this year, because we know that they've completed filming on The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is coming out in May 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta think at least some sort of a teaser is imminent on this, and probably we will see something no later than Star Wars Celebration on that one.
Yes.
And we're going to start getting a lot more information about that movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say, was that Star Wars Celebration, I think, is going to be the mecca, of these announcements and these previews and things. And if we don't get it, come on, we got to start getting something. Little teases here and there.
And then I'm thinking back to the one that stands out in my mind, of course, is The Force Awakens back in 2015. And we got a teaser, I want to say it was the day after Thanksgiving in 2014. And of course, The Force Awakens came out December 2015. And then it was at Celebration in 2015 that we got the first trailer. That was in May. So if we're using that type of time frame, then yeah, Celebration seems to be perfect for giving us at least a teaser. But I think they'd almost want to debut a full trailer at that point, as opposed to a teaser. They did that sizzle reel at Celebration Europe last year that they still haven't put up there online for everybody.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, it's in their best interest to at least give us little breadcrumbs here and there, because it keeps the hype going. You don't want to wait too long in between.
Right. And we talked about the fact that there was a December 2026 movie on the schedule. It's no longer there. I think they've put an animated film in its place, or Disney has, I should say. But again, we've got various people working on Star Wars projects. Patty Jenkins is apparently working on the Rogue Squadron script again. James Mangold's doing Dawn of the Jedi. We have the Heir to the Empire movie, or as it's being referred to by fans, by Dave Filoni, coming up. There's the new Jedi Order movie, which is Rey, which Daisy Ridley was saying that we should be expecting something imminently at the end of last year, which we have not had. Taika Waititi is still kind of bouncing around. Simon Kinberg was recently hired or reached an agreement with Lucasfilm to create a trilogy of movies. And of course, Sean Levy, who's coming off the success of his Deadpool and Wolverine project, and said that after season 5 of Stranger Things, he's going to be turning towards Star Wars. So anyways, none of that's coming up in 2025. None of it's coming up in 2026. But there's always the possibility that we get, any day now, more discussion on any of those movies. And that would be welcome.
Yeah, it definitely would be. I love how you put in our notes, like, the word announced in quotations.
Yeah.
Because, we've always said Star Wars giveth and Star Wars taketh away, that's for sure. But I mean, just looking forward to The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's just crazy that that will mark what, 7 years since we've actually had any Star Wars movie
Yeah,
in the theater, not counting, of
six and
course,
a
the
half.
re-releases.
Yeah, when it
Yeah,
comes
but
down to it. Yeah,
yeah, it's just, oh gosh,
or
we
five and a
are,
half. Yeah, six and a half. Yeah,
yeah, because
yeah,
2019, right, was the
right.
last one, right? The Skywalker.
And I don't know. I mean, it would have been great to have Star Wars movies and in the theaters and stuff like that. I can't help but wonder if the movies didn't need a break. And so this may be a good thing, and especially since they've got such a good commodity in the Mandalorian that they developed through Disney Plus. I don't know. I'm excited for the movie. I would like to hear more. We've talked about this in the past as well. It's just that when the Force Awakens was on the radar, we were all just chomping at the bit with anticipation. But again, we know more about the Mandalorian and Grogu and the main characters of this compared to what we didn't know what we were getting with the Force Awakens. So maybe that's the difference, and that we still have fresh Star Wars content every 6 months at least right now.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we'll see. But all right, well, I don't want to get too caught up on that because we got a lot more topics to go through,
Me
including
too.
stuff that's actually coming out in 2025.
Right.
So on the television front, we've got the final 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew coming out this month, January 2025. And then that's going to be followed up by season 2 of Andor in April, more specifically on April 22nd. And, Jay, the first season of Andor is some of the most critically acclaimed, well received Star Wars content we've had
Mhm.
in the last 6 years. What's your anticipation level for this?
Very, very high. Yes, this one is definitely towards, if not at the top of my list for things happening with television because as you said, I mean, there's what's not to love about Andor. It's just so intriguing. It's so captivating. It's just so gripping. I mean, I could use all the adjectives, but it's we've waited so long for this and definitely going to have to, rewatch the first season before this comes out, but I'm just so ready for this, and I can't even hype this enough. I'm just so excited. But how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this as well. And what's particularly exciting about this season is, well, there's a couple things. One, K2SO. So Alan
Mhm.
Tudyk will be returning to reprise that role. And two, we know that every 3 episodes, they're going to jump ahead a year in the timeline until we get to those final 3 episodes, which are supposed to lead right into Rogue One.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what it was that got Cassian Andor to the Ring of Kafrene, where we picked him up in Rogue One. And that just seems really, really cool because it's already awesome the way that Rogue One leads right into the beginning of A New Hope. And now
Yes.
having this show lead right into the beginning of Rogue One, that's pretty special.
It really is, and I appreciate how seamless that is going to be because, like you said, it is very special, and
Hmm.
it does and I love that Diego Luna is so excited about that in particular, that
Hmm.
I guarantee that as soon as you watch this, you're gonna wanna watch Rogue One. I just think that's so cool.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, the other television property that we know for certain is coming out this year is season 3 of Star Wars Visions. And it will be going back to what they did with season 1, using all anime studios to give us 9 new episodes of that. I'm excited for this. We don't have a firm release date as of yet, but I'm guessing sometime this summer. The thing to note is that after Visions, again, assuming it comes out after season 2 of Andor, there's nothing else
Mhm.
Disney Plus wise on the calendar for Star Wars. The next big piece of content we're going to get is The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters in May of 2026.
Right.
So that's a big window right there.
Yeah, it really is, and as excited as I am about the next, season of Star Wars Visions, and how much I appreciate the style of the animation with the different studios and the anime and that type of things. It's not gonna be enough to hold us, I think, you know?
Hmm.
Hopefully, we'll get something dropped kind of, like we did last year, like Tales of the Empire, which was sort of like, "Oh, hey, surprise, we're getting this." And we didn't anticipate that. So hoping that maybe something like that will drop again after Visions, but I guess, we'll just have to keep hoping and put those warm, fuzzy feelings out there in the force.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the items next on the list here was the potential for some sort of follow up to Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire. And if you think back, they announced Tales of the Empire literally like a month and a half, 2 months before it came out
Right.
last
Yeah.
year. And we had been anticipating a second season of Tales of the Jedi. And that's not to say that they couldn't do another Tales of the Empire or Tales of the Jedi, or they could go a completely different route. Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of the
Right.
Mandalorians, Tales of Jabba's Palace, Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina. Those were actually books in the old Legends continuity there. But I would love that. I would really love it if they could give something there later in the year to tide us over. Now, a couple of things of note. There's usually something that comes out for May the Force, not generally some big piece of content, but it might be a behind the scenes type of a thing. We usually get some sort of a Simpsons Star Wars short on that
Mhm.
day, but there
Mhm.
is the potential for that. And then typically like Disney Plus Day, which comes later in the year, or something later, there's like I said, there's that big window. So there's another opportunity for them to drop something else. Other things that we haven't heard about, they still haven't announced a follow-up animated series to the Bad Batch.
Right.
We went from the Clone Wars to Rebels to Resistance, back to season 7 of the Clone Wars, and then we got the Bad Batch, and we've seen the listings online that they've been looking for people, animation supervisors and the like,
Mhm.
at Lucasfilm. We're presuming it's for something Star Wars related. Maybe it's not, but again, if we don't get something announced soon, I expect some sort of announcement at Celebration. Whether it comes out in 2025, we don't know. Maybe it won't come out until 2026, 2027, but look for some sort of news on that front. And then the last thing on the television area of Star Wars is that there is the possibility that we could see the beginning of filming for season 2 of Ahsoka
Mhm.
this year. That's been announced. We don't have a year release date or whatever. We know it's not coming this year because they haven't even
Right.
started filming the thing, but Dave Filoni seems to know what the story is. I'm assuming scripts have been worked on. So hopefully that gets started sometime this year.
Right, indeed. And that's definitely, a property for Star Wars that I think is something that they're going to want to pursue because there was a lot of fandom surrounding the Ahsoka series. And
Hmm.
so, it just seems like a no-brainer to want to continue that.
Indeed. Okay, so that's what we got for television. Let's switch over to books. And as hard as it is to believe, we are in the home stretch for the High Republic.
Yeah.
And we've got our final waves of books coming up starting in April, leading off with Into the Light by Claudia Gray. That will be the last young adult novel on April 1st, followed by A Valiant Vow by Justina Ireland, which is the middle grade book coming out on May 6th. And then we have Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule, which is an adult novel coming out on June 17th. So Charles Soule got to start the whole thing with Light of the Jedi back in 2021, and he gets to finish it here in 2025 with the conclusion there. So
Very
which of
appropriate.
those are you most looking forward to?
Well, of course, like you were just pointing out with Charles Soule, having that bookend to end the High Republic is just going to be not only nostalgic in a lot of ways, but I just have a feeling that Charles Soule, he always brings it, but just being the exclamation point, at the end of this whole journey, I think is just something definitely to look forward to. But honestly, I know that this is a cop out, but Claudia Gray and Justina Ireland have just consistently, for me, really brought a lot of great storytelling to the High Republic. So both of those I think are going to be amazing, quite honestly. Now the middle grade novels, I'm
Yeah.
not, we definitely don't really get into those as much as the others, but the young adult novels have really just with each wave that we've gotten and I've just been so impressed. So and Claudia Gray is always amazing. So that'll be a good one.
Yeah, nice little bit of symmetry there for Claudia Gray. The first young adult novel was written by her, and
Mhm.
High Republican it was called Into the Dark,
Into the
and now we
dark.
have
Yep.
Into the Light. So
Yep.
a bit of an emergence there for the
Perfect.
Jedi. So that's pretty cool. And of course, we've got and skipping ahead to some comics here, but we've also got the High Republic comics resuming this month as well by Kevin Scott. So you can look forward to that. And that's the High Republic proper that's coming to an end. But we all know the Acolyte was a tie-in to the High Republic era. It came basically at the tail end of the whole thing. And towards that, we do have a couple of tie-in novels. The first of which is The Acolyte Wayseeker, also by Justina Ireland, who you were just talking about. This book is about Vernestra Rowe, as we saw her in The Acolyte, only it's set 20 years prior to The Acolyte. And that is coming out on May 6th. Big day for Justina Ireland. She's got A Valiant Vow and The Acolyte Wayseeker coming out on the same day.
Oh, busy.
Yeah, so she's got a big publishing day for her. I'm assuming got those publishing day rights. Anyway, so there's that. And then we have The Crystal Crown by Tessa Gratton. And this is the book about Yord and Jecki. This takes place prior to The Acolyte. I found for the first time that Yord is still a Padawan in this book.
Okay.
And so that's why he's teaming up with Jecki, because as we know, Jecki was not his Padawan.
Right.
So that makes a little bit more sense. And that is coming out on July 29th. You looking forward to these two?
Oh, sure. I mean, we kind of had the Acolyte ripped out from underneath us, so to speak. And, as much as there was some, kind of ambivalence about the show, I mean, we still want some, answers and that type of thing. And even though this isn't going forward, it's
Yeah.
still filling some gaps, perhaps, even in the past. And Justina Ireland writing the Acolyte about Vernestra Rowe makes sense because she created Vernestra Rowe. And that's something that I've always, wondered, and we've talked about even on the show, is how did she feel about the treatment, quote unquote, of Vernestra in the series. And so it'll be nice to get back to Justina's perspective of this character in the book. And then The Crystal Crown, once again, Tessa Gratton is also one of my favorite authors out of the High Republic. She's written some amazing things, especially, around Marchion Row and the Nile. But getting back to Yord and Jecki will be a very interesting way for her to, round this out. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. I mean, I know it's kind of, like I said, kind of a cop out answer, but do you have a favorite out of these two, or one that you're looking more forward to than another?
Yeah, this is tough. When you said this is not looking forward to the events after The Acolyte, I'm with you. That's what I'd really like to know, especially since we're not going to get a season 2.
Hmm.
But that being said, getting to learn a little bit more about Vernestra Rowe 20 years prior to The Acolyte, and maybe getting some answers as
Right.
to why she changed from the character we knew during the High Republic. We're starting to see a little bit of it, I think, in Phase 3. How she's kind of taking matters into her own hands a bit more and
Oh,
becoming
yeah.
suspicious of a lot of things that are going on around her,
Hmm.
especially as we got to see in Eye of Darkness. So, there's that, but maybe getting a few more clues about how she takes such a, she puts on that like really tough veneer in The Acolyte. So maybe getting
Yes,
some clues about that would be welcome as well.
indeed.
And then the final book that we know about is the beginning of the Reign of the Empire trilogy. And so the first one's going to be written by Alexander Freed. It's coming out on February 25th. Lots of books to catch up on, Jay. Got to clear our
Yes,
bookshelves here because we got lots to cover here on the podcast.
we
The
do.
first one's called The Mask of Fear. Now, the point of this trilogy is that we got 3 books that are coming. They're going to be taking place. They're going to leap forward in time with each one. And they span that era between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and focus on characters like Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera. So it seems like good tie-in material for Andor, which we are just talking a
Yes.
bit about here. I like Alexander Freed. I like his work. He's definitely leans towards the more gritty side of Star Wars when he writes.
Hmm.
But Rebecca Roanhorse, and I'm trying to remember who's writing the third one. They're also contributing to this. So I like the characters, and I'm interested to see what he does. Just really, really curious because he wrote the Alphabet Squadron books,
Hmm.
which perhaps a bit too gritty for my taste.
They were
So
great.
yeah, so I'm curious how this is going to turn out.
I am too, but I have to say though that I am so like looking forward to these because I just love this whole era. And again, just getting back to my excitement about Andor. And
Mhm.
as you said, these are going to be a great, almost tie into that. But I'm just so all about, getting into the cinematic part of the storytelling. And so, getting into between Rogue One and, again, even the television series and as you pointed out, Revenge of the Sith, I am all about this. And
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be so delightful. And I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm already riveted.
So you may notice that the latest date we gave for any of these books that are coming out is July 29th, which undoubtedly means there's projects that have not been announced yet. We're
Sure.
aware of one that's kind of rattling around out there, but we're waiting for an official announcement before we talk about it here on the show. Not that we
Yes.
have any inside knowledge. We're picking on other people's inside knowledge here, but we just try to be responsible with what we're talking about here. And but again, that still doesn't give us anything for the last at least last quarter of the year, and we know that they aren't going to go that long. There's
Right.
some other smaller titles. We're not getting into kind of the DK books, the art of type stuff or any of those things as well. These are just the major storytelling releases that we're talking about for the moment. So
Right.
be on the lookout for those.
Hmm.
Comics. We typically have kind of just stuck to various one-off issues or particular story arcs or limited runs here on the podcast, other than the High Republic, which again is still technically miniseries or maxi series, because they're usually 10, 12 issues at a time. But there are some really interesting titles coming out this year. First off, the Battle of Jakku concludes, and I haven't picked that up yet. I'm waiting for them all to become available on Marvel Unlimited, and I'm going to read them there. But that may be something we're talking about sometime this year. Then we get a one shot, which we just talked about on a news episode about a month ago, celebrating Marvel's 10-year anniversary of writing Star Wars again.
That's cool.
This one is kind of be fascinating. We got The Legacy of Vader by Charles Soule. I know we've brought this up on the show before. It's going to bridge the time between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker and features what Kylo Ren was up to in that year.
Yes.
And then we have a series called Jedi Knights, which is set before the Phantom Menace, with each issue being about a different Jedi. So, of all of that, what are you most looking forward to?
Oh, Legacy of Vader. Charles
Yeah.
Soule is just, we've talked about just how brilliant Charles Soule is with his
Mhm.
comic writing. And I know I have really come to appreciate him so much more just from doing all of the coverage that we've done here on the show. And I'm sure that his treatment of Kylo Ren is going to be absolutely spectacular. And I just can't get enough of that particular character. I love Kylo Ren. I know that there's a lot of, controversy on both sides about the character himself, but he's, I always say for some characters I'm kind of an apologist and I'm definitely a Kylo Ren apologist.
Sure.
But yeah, I know that one's definitely at the top. And then the Jedi Knight one is very intriguing to me because, we were just talking about this on our recap for 2024 and how much I loved Light of the Jedi and, just all of or not Light of the Jedi, the John Jackson Miller novel. Why
The
can't I
Living
think of it right?
Force.
Thank you, The Living Force. And just the fact that, we were able to focus on a lot of those Jedi on the council. And so that one's got me intrigued, I will say.
Yeah, yeah. Back to what you're saying about Charles Soule. He did write The Rise of Kylo Ren and did a
Yes.
fantastic job with that character,
Mhm.
kind of bringing him out of Luke's Jedi Academy, uh, on then, making him the apprentice to the Supreme Leader, Snoke, along the way, kind of how that all went down. So seeing what Charles Soule has to say about Kylo Ren after that incredible story is, yeah, that puts that way, way, way up on my list. Charles Soule gets Star Wars, and he does such a good job telling stories
Oh
in
yeah.
that sandbox that I'm really eager to get everything we can from him. So it'll be a big year for him in Star Wars as
Yeah,
well.
for sure. And I do really want to get the Battle of Jakku under
Mhm.
my belt because I've been seeing a lot of things about the Battle of Jakku and how integral it is. And I mean, I know we obviously know a lot about it, but I don't know. I've just been seeing it coming up again and again and again and again. So it's almost like the red car syndrome, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think that's definitely one that we're gonna have to break down on the show.
Well, I'd just love to know what Luke, Leia, and Han were up to at this point. And because,
Yeah.
the as we talked about in the past, the Aftermath trilogy and then the Alphabet Squadron trilogy all end up at the Battle of Jakku. And so we know what some of these side characters to, our big three, they're the main characters of their own stories, of course, we're up to, but seeing what their involvement would just be amazing. So yeah, I'm with you. I just haven't had a chance to get in those issues yet. I'm not sure if any of them are available yet, like I said, on Marvel Unlimited, but definitely want to get into that. And it's something that, at least for the moment, we have bookmarked to cover on the podcast coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, no secret. We've been alluding to it all episode. Star Wars Celebration Japan is the marquee event for Star Wars this year, taking place April 18th through 20th in Tokyo. We're not going. Flights to
Wah, wah, wah.
Tokyo are long and expensive, and I can't go there. That time of year does not work out for me. And if I'm going to go to Japan, I want to do it right. Spending 3 days at Celebration would be one thing, but I'd want to have at least another week, 10 days to explore Japan while I'm there. But we will certainly be covering all the announcements that'll be coming out of there. And again, we expecting stuff about Mandalorian and Grogu, something about Andor, seeing how it comes out just a couple days later. Looking for announcements about what's going on in Star Wars animation, maybe Ahsoka season 2. All the panels will be huge there, and they announce things there. They haven't had a whole lot of success bringing the things they've been announcing in the most recent
Right.
celebrations to fruition. But, at least the things that are currently in production will likely get highlighted, and we'll have stuff to talk about coming out of that.
Yes.
And then the other pseudo event, we've got Star Wars Nights at Disneyland, also known as Season of the Force, running March 28th through May 11th. A lot more Star Wars programming going on there in Disneyland. They have the Fire of the Rising Moons nightly in Galaxy's Edge, which is a fireworks display and the like. Hyperspace Mountain is a overlay that they put on Space Mountain, and that's in Tomorrowland. Look for increased character presence, and then probably some standalone Star Wars night events where they have extended hours in Galaxy's Edge and the like. So be on the lookout for that. I'd love to go, but again, not going to work out in my schedule this year.
Sure. Same.
Yeah. Don't have much more to say about that. So, but then, okay, so our podcast, we'll be covering as much of this as we can as it comes up throughout the year.
Yes.
If you've been with us in the past, usually when it comes to the books, we tend to review those 3 or 5 weeks after they come out, as our schedule allows, because we don't get advanced copies. We read them at the same rate as the average person does, and then digest them and cover them here on the podcast. When it comes to Andor and the like, we'll be doing those on a weekly basis as they come out. For Visions season 3, probably be reviewing multiple episodes at a time until we get through all of that. Other things that we do on the podcast and our features, again, we have weekly news episodes most weeks, and then we'll be picking up again with our review of the Clone Wars as we fill in between things like Skeleton Crew and Andor and Visions. And then we have our monthly series such as World Between Worlds, where Jay gathers up Star Wars lifestyle and fashion products, and we share them with you, and then our other Star Wars finds. And each year we do a series on a movie celebrating a milestone anniversary. That means something ending in a 0 or a 5. And this is as good a time as any to announce which movie we're covering this year. Jay, I'll do the drum roll. You have the honors. The movie for 2025 is...
I'm so honored to say Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, for
Yes.
its 20th anniversary. So
I'm so stoked for this, Dennis. I can't even begin to tell you. It's going to be all Hayden Christensen all year long. Sorry. I mean,
it's all
Great
Hayden Christensen all year long, regardless of whether there's a movie having an anniversary around here.
No, but
It's easy.
seriously, this is the one of the pinnacle, ultimate, I feel like, Star Wars movies that we've. Yeah, I mean, they're all amazing, but I mean, I think a lot of people agree that Revenge of the Sith is definitely top-notch Star Wars. So looking
it's
forward to it.
widely regarded as the best of the prequel trilogy.
Right.
And so, we're getting into that. The other option we had for this year was The Force Awakens, because it's celebrating its 10th anniversary. Mm-hmm. And so it was, we thought about it for a minute and decided that, no, we need to do Revenge of the Sith. And so we will save The Force Awakens for another time. But I'm looking forward to that. There we go. But, and if you're new to the show, the format is that each month we have an episode that usually runs about an hour long, and we devote that to a 10 to 15 minute segment of the movie until we get through the entire movie, which usually ends either in November or December. So make sure you stick around for that. Those are some of our most popular episodes. And people reach out to us the most about those.
And it's so much fun because we get to have guests on most
Hmm.
of the time, as long as it works out, and
Yeah,
just reconnect with some amazingly brilliant fans that we've had the great pleasure and honor of having in our orbit. So,
that's right. And in addition to that, we'll be doing things periodically like trivia associated with Revenge of the Sith. We'll be getting into the novelization. If we can find deleted scenes, we'll be discussing those. We'll have a lot of content devoted
oh
to
yeah.
Revenge of the Sith this year. And yeah, it starts in just a couple weeks and it'll
Mhm.
run through December. So please stick around for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Jay, 2025 is going to be huge. What are you looking forward to the most?
Oh gosh, it's like it's all good. It's all Star Wars all the time, and it's so much Star Wars is such a great problem to have, like we said. I have to say I think, as far as overall, Andor is probably what I'm looking forward to the most in terms of, just visually being able to consume something in that way. But I have to say, as much as I love the High Republic and I'm looking forward to the books, that series by Charles Soule looking into Kylo Ren is really piquing my interest big time. But, of course, breaking down Revenge of the Sith each
Mhm.
month as well, because that's going to be amazing. But what about you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Andor season 2 is the marquee storytelling content event of the year. And so definitely looking forward to that. I'm excited for the hype that's going to be coming up with Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm curious what Lucasfilm is going to do to fill in the last quarter of the year with some Star
Yeah.
Wars content when it comes to books and stuff. So we still have some announcements and things to come. And yeah, it's going to be a good time celebrating Revenge of the Sith all year. And I cannot wait to dive into that.
Hmm.
But all right, that's it. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Podcast Stardust and our preview of Star Wars content coming in 2025. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if we've piqued your interest, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you'll get our coverage of all these things as they happen. And then while you're there, like, rate, review the podcast, whatever it is that your podcatcher allows for. I know they're all a little bit different. And hey, if we're not on your preferred podcatcher and you somehow found this podcast anyways, please let me know. We have different ways of contacting us, which we'll get to here in just a second, and we will try to make that happen. If you want to find our entire back catalog of shows, which is going to be more than the 1 or 200 you're going to find on your podcatcher, we have an extensive, very extensive content or catalog of shows of 831 previous episodes to be precise. Head over to retrozap.com. That's been our home for the last 5+ years, and you can find everything we've done there, along with some other great shows on the network, including Agents of Shield, Case Files, Animaniacast, Brews and Blasters, Dorkler, Doomcast, Enjoy Stuff, Love, Death, and Robots Plus, Superhero Suite, and Work Trails. So, Jay, remind everybody one more time what our social media contacts are, if you will, and fill them in on where else they can find what we've got going on around the internet.
Absolutely. So you can continue to find us on our Instagram and Facebook outlets at Podcast Stardust. Very easy to do. And we also are continuing our Pinterest pages, and we also still have other places to find us as well, such as Spotify, Audible, and then we have our two YouTube outlets. So we have the traditional YouTube, which does not have actual videos, but we're there, and you can continue to look at a static picture and listen to us there, as well as YouTube Music. And those do support subscriptions as well as interactions and reviews. So we would love to see it. And then we also have a couple other places that you can connect with us. One is in real time on our Discord room, which is part of the RetroZap Discord server. So you can hit up the link to our show notes and it'll take you right to where you need to go. And then we also have our TeePublic store. So we continue to stock 7 different show logo designs that are available on all kinds of things from apparel to home goods and everything in between. So once again, if you are in need of a closet refresh, you can hit up that link in our show notes.
All right, what do you got going on in cosplay?
All right. Well, as usual, you can look forward in 2025 to finding me on my Instagram, which is at j.snipscosplay. And I will continue to be Ahsoka, the fourth sister, as well as my two different versions of Hera, my original concept Mandalorian, and I'm also working on a few other things as well. Looking forward to a couple conventions already, one specifically Fan Expo Cleveland in March of 2025. So keep on keeping on with that. And once again, just keep joining me at j.snipscosplay.
All right. So upcoming on the show on Friday, we'll be looking at episode 7 of Skeleton Crew. Then on Monday, it'll be our next edition of Star Wars News. So with that, just want to say thanks for listening to episode 832 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. And until next time, may the Force be